You don't need any more discipline in your life. You need less fear. Hey, everybody, welcome back to our channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today, I want to talk about this concept of fear versus discipline. If you have discipline, that will be enough for you to change your life. I think it's a little bit deeper than that. So let's get into it. You wake up in the morning, you're exhausted. You don't really want to do what you have to do that day. You think you're lazy. You think you're unmotivated. You think just need a little bit more discipline in your life in order to get yourself back on track. But I don't think so. I think the truth really isn't about lacking discipline. I think it's more that you're overwhelmed by fear. Because remember, fear doesn't always scream at us. It's not always a horror movie and all of a sudden we're uncomfortable. Sometimes it's whispers. Sometimes it's internal dialogue. So let's talk about that a little bit. Discipline means doing what matters consistently. And I definitely think that that is important in life, especially if you're trying to achieve a certain goal, you're trying to get to a certain level. By all means, discipline has its place. But fear is not something that you necessarily always have control over. Fear is something that hijacks your nervous system. Fear is something that shuts down your creativity. Fear clouds your decision making and keeps you in survival mode. And survival mode tends to kill motivation because you're only worried about the next step or getting through to the next level the next day, rather than thinking about the big picture and actually focusing on the next step, of course, but then the long-term goals that's going to lead you to as well. So it's not really about you being lazy. It's about you bracing yourself for the impact and not knowing when it's coming. So being in this constant state of tenseness and bracing. The thing is about fear, it kind of morphs and connects with other things in our life. So it can disguise yourself with things that you blame yourself for. So procrastination, but that's not necessarily a flaw. It's more about you having a fear of doing something wrong or failing. Overthinking, which is something that I have a huge problem with, is really the fear of choosing the wrong thing, of making a decision that ultimately you're going to have to backtrack on. And some of the shame that comes along with acknowledging that to the world. People pleasing, another favorite of mine, is really about the fear of being rejected by your peers, by people that you care about, people that you respect. Staying in a bad job is about the fear of being unstable, the fear of not knowing where the next paycheck's coming from, or having to plan on the fly rather than having something already laid out for you. Perfectionism is really the fear of criticism, and playing small is the fear of visibility. Fear tends to whisper to us, don't change anything, keep the status quo. Yes, you're miserable, but at least you know how to survive this misery. At least you know what you're going to get into every single day. At least you know you can survive it because you have survived it over the past few days, weeks, years, decades. Fear tends to idolize the familiar, even though the familiar might actually be killing you. It's basically your fight or flight mode coming in, right? Your instinct saying freeze, stay exactly where you are, do not move, do not rock the boat, do not disrupt the system, because any next step, no matter what direction it will be, it feels like a threat. So just stay where you are because you're safe here. But it's a false security. It's a false sense of safeness. You're just really worried about, what if I fail? What if I look stupid? What if I can't actually achieve this? What if I don't actually get this and I have to go back to where I started? What if people judge me? What if people make fun of me? What if people cut me out of their life because they don't want me or my style or my goals in their environment anymore? What if I lose everything and everybody that I've acquired that has come into my life up until this point? And the older you get, the more those fears you have, right? The more you get established in your life, the more you feel like you have to lose by making changes. Your brain isn't trying to ruin your life. It's trying to protect you, but it protects you into stagnation. Because the truth is, in reality, as human beings, we actually need a little bit of fear in order to grow. But the key to that growth is not necessarily discipline. It's reducing those fears enough that you stop being immobile. It's very difficult to do, but you start small. Make a tiny little step. Fear hates small steps more than anything because small steps can still get you anywhere, but they're not some big overwhelming fear that your brain can talk you out of. Surround yourself with people who normalize growth, who want to see you successful, who want to put positive vibes into your life, who actually see the value that you have to offer. Remove the shame from slow progress. This one was really hard for me because shame is like fear's best friend, right? They never do anything without each other. If I fail, I'm going to have shame of people making fun of me. I'm going to have shame of people telling me I told you so. I'm going to have shame of people seeing me falling flat on my face. And I'm going to have this record of my failure with me for the rest of my life. And no one's ever going to let it go. The thing that got me out of that funk was I'd rather have the shame, all of that shame, than the shame of being 70 years old and experience the shame that comes with regret from not doing any of that earlier. You also need to just choose an environment that is going to support your evolution. Again, this comes back to surrounding yourself with people that want to see you thrive, that want to see you successful. When you can finally breathe, when you can finally move a little more freely, when you can look at your choices and actually make them and have them align with what you want for your future, that fear starts to dissipate. And the shame that comes along with it starts to dissipate as well. And discipline starts to automatically become part of your life without you even doing anything intentionally to put it there. So it's not that discipline doesn't have its place. It's just that discipline is not going to get you out of those funks. You need to get over the fear and the shame instead. It's not about having a new productivity system or getting up at 5 a.m. If those things work for you, that's great, but that doesn't necessarily work for everyone. And for me, I think the most important thing to get out of these types of funks, to figure out how to work your way out of this burnout, is more about giving yourself permission to go anyway, even when you are afraid. It's not about being fearless. It's just about not letting that fear control you. Because other people who are insecure, other people who would not have that kind of gumption, they're going to put you down. They're going to tell you can't do it because they want you to stay in that little bubble, in that environment that's safe for them, because then they don't feel inadequate. They don't feel like less of a person or bad about themselves because they wouldn't be able to make the same moves. But you can't let that stop you. Any amount of courage, even the smallest amount, even in a baby step, even in a tiny little change, is enough to change your entire direction. You'd be surprised. It starts to gain momentum, and then you start to make bigger steps, and you start to make more steps more frequently. And then all of a sudden you find yourself running towards this destination you never even knew you wanted until you started to take those tiny steps. That is what owning your work is about. Finding that purpose that you want to run towards and having the courage to leave everything else behind if that's what it takes to get there. It's not easy, I'm going to tell you right now, and it's not for everybody. I'm going to tell you that as well. It takes a lot of self-confidence and it takes a lot of willing to look foolish. But if you're not willing to look foolish, you're never going to get anywhere. I hope this resonated with you. Please let me know in the comments below. Also, if you have any questions or there's any other way I can help, let me know as well. Thank you for listening. I'm wishing you nothing but the best, and I'll see you next time.